Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Kesteven series. This is a large Lincolnshire district centred around the town of Sleaford. There's 75 parishes here, so let's take a look at one of them. Hello there. Welcome to a brand new district of Lincolnshire. I'm standing in North Kesteven for the very first time on the channel, and I couldn't have picked a better village to start this one off than this, quite frankly. How many villages do you know where there are signs all around it saying gunfire noise? I'm gonna imagine it's probably not many. Well, that's definitely what you'll find here in Beckingham. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to North Kesteven for the very first time. This is Beckingham, one of 75 civil parishes in the district. It's situated approximately 4 miles east of Newark-on-Trent, just off the A17. It's also on the eastern bank or Lincolnshire side of the River Witham, which if you've watched my Barnby and the Willows episode, you'll already know all about. In 1972, the village was bypassed by a dual-carriageway at a cost of £600,000, a move which would reroute the A17, which at one time ran through the village. There were many businesses which relied on the passing trade at one time too, but these have now dwindled, including the once very busy Corner House Café on Sleaford Road. Beckingham is now a largely residential community with a village hall which used to be a chapel. It has one pub, the Black Swan, but it also features another former pub which is Grade 2 listed. In fact, it's full of listed buildings, including All Saints Church, which achieved a bit of fame in 2006 when it was featured on the BBC TV programme Restoration. To the north of the village is the Beckingham Training Camp and Rifle Ranges, which are used by the local Army cadets. That's why on the A17 there are signs which say gunfire noise. We start North Kesteven with a bang. Literally. Let's go. Welcome to Beckingham, everyone. We begin on Rectory Street, and this is so named because, believe it or not, it's where you'll find the rectory. The street has been used for the rectory buildings since the time of Doomsday. At the end of Rectory Street, we'll be heading left momentarily to check out All Saints Church. This is Sleaford Road. The house you can see here is Elsmar Lodge, and that used to be the busy Corner House Café many moons ago. Because the village is effectively a square, we'll be coming back to Rectory Street from the right later. This has to be one of the most neatly laid out villages I think I've ever come across. Let's head to All Saints. This is a Grade 1 listed building which was closed in 1998 and almost declared redundant. Recently, funding was secured to restore its roofing. It dates from the 13th century originally, but it's had plenty of additions and alterations since then. Okay, let's have a wander into the churchyard. See if we can get into this one. Sometimes churches are open, sometimes they're not. Hopefully this one is. Quite a prominent tower here in Beckingham, do you not agree? There's a Nice little cross above the porch. Let's see if this door's open. It's spitting with rain a little bit outside, so this will be, yes, we're open. This will be a nice shelter from the weather for a second or so. So straight away we've got a font of note. Let's see, we've got light switches. Yes, we have. Switch the lights on. Well, that did nothing. That didn't work for some reason. Maybe they're not light switches, don't know. Let's have a wander around, see if we can find a light switch and see what else we can find in here. So we've got some stained glass up there. Have a quick look at that. There we go. That's beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, so is this rood screen. Let's head into the chancel. Looks like this wall could do with a bit of TLC. It's probably been stripped back. It's the same on the other side. Okay. Let's head down here. See what we've got in one of the aisles. Some more stained glass here. Not seeing too much on the walls in this one. There's a tablet here. So this is in loving memory of C.F. Rogers, aged 35, and S.B. Rogers, who were killed in France during World War I. I wonder if the village has got a war memorial somewhere. I don't remember seeing it when I planned the route. This one's to the memory of Wilson Willows, church warden of Beckingham for 20 years, and his wife Annie, 1895 to 1964. I think that's pretty much about it. There's another tablet on the wall there. We'll check that one out just before we leave. It's heading towards the door, so may as well. Oh, this is to do with the electric heating system. It was given to the church in 1950 by Wilson and Annie Gertrude Willows. That'll be them I've just spoken about, in grateful memory of her beloved parents James Henry and Mary Ann White. Oh, there we go. That's something we don't normally talk about when we go into churches, you know, the electric heating system and stuff like that. We don't normally see things like that. That's so unusual, isn't it? Right, let's move on. Next, we venture down Hillside, which is the street to the left, which the camera is panning to now. It's a dead end if you're driving, but there is a footpath over the Witham at the end. Its most notable building is number 1 Hillside Cottages. These are Hillside Cottages. Number 1, which was built in 1706, was formerly the village's Quaker meeting house and school. There was also a Quaker burial ground in the village, sited close to Beckingham Hall. We march on down the hill towards the Witham, towards an area where royalist forces camped during the Civil War. They used the river to water their horses. You don't realise when walking down this hill, by the way, just how steep it is. I was to learn all about that on the way back up. This then is the Black Swan, which has served as an inn for centuries. At the time of Doomsday, the site it stands on was occupied by a watermill. It's also haunted, apparently. Okay, so at the end of Hillside, there's a bridge over the River Witham. Now, if you've watched the Barnby and the Willows episode of Newark and Sherwood, you'll know all about how this is supposed to be the Lincolnshire, Nottinghamshire county border, but I do explain in that episode why parts of it aren't. Now, at this point, you can see a bridge that carries the A17, and I'm not sure if you can get up onto the A17 here, because I can see some little like handrails either side, so maybe you can walk up onto the A17 here, but we're not doing that. We're heading back down Hillside to get to our next major landmark. We're back at the top of Hillside now, and this is Chapel Street. Along here there's some more interesting houses, but perhaps none more so than Rose Cottage, and it's neither of these two. In fact, it's behind the camera. I opted not to film it because its owner was in his garden. Rose Cottage is of wattle and daub construction and is reputedly one of the oldest cottages in Lincolnshire. Its exact date of construction is not known. That brings us to the village hall, and this is the reason why Chapel Street is called Chapel Street. This is the village's former Wesleyan Methodist chapel, which was erected in 1835. It was lovely, by the way, to see the Lincolnshire flag flying proudly outside this. For those that don't already know me, I am a Lincolnshire boy. Anyway, there's a parish notice board here too, and new folks, this is what I do when I see one of these. The parish is marked off my list by way of a TVI card. Okay, the rain's starting to come down now, so the hood's gone up. Hopefully I can still see things. So this is the A17. This is the Beckingham bypass, which runs around the village, like so, and heads off to the east towards the town of Sleaford. Now, if you drive along the A17 at this point, you will see plenty of signs that say gunfire noise. And the reason for that is because up this road here to the left, you've got the Beckingham training camp and rifle ranges. Now, I can't get anywhere near that to film it because, of course, it's MOD property and their security is ridiculous. It's kind of over in that sort of general direction over there. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to give this its own special section, and that's coming right now. You would not believe how hard it was to find things about this, but here's what I did. Beckingham Training Camp and Rifle Ranges are located off Woodgate Lane and to the north of the A17, occupying an enormous tract of land. It's mainly used by the Nottinghamshire Army Cadets, with differing companies visiting every month. It has a maximum capacity of 500, with sleeping quarters for up to 400 cadets and 100 adult instructors. In-camp training facilities include an obstacle course, a large drill square, and an all-purpose training area suitable for all levels of cadets to use. It has one of the best rifle ranges in the region, making this very popular for shooting competitions. The southern edge of the camp does have a public footpath running through it, but I wasn't about to attempt it. Fun fact though, I have actually been inside the camp before in a previous job. It's mind-blowing how big the place is. And what I will do at the end of this episode is I will drive to the entrance to the rifle ranges and just finish the video off there. But of course, I'm not going to attempt to trespass or anything like that into MOD property. Not a good idea. Something else I'm going to be doing after I finish this main walk is driving to Sutton, which is a small hamlet to the south of Beckingham, which falls within its parish boundaries, just a mile away. But we've got the main walk to finish first, and next up I can see a bus stop. Indeed I could. Here we find the local bus stop, the one and only in the village. Beckingham is served by one public bus, and that's the number 47, which runs between Lincoln and Newark. There's also a school service to Sleaford too. This is School Lane, folks, and it's generally more of the same down here, as we've seen already. If I'm honest, there isn't much to tell you about this street. At the bottom of it will be on Sleaford Road again. Sleaford Road was the former A17, which ran through the village until the 1970s, when the bypass was built. The Corner House Café mentioned earlier was a popular stop for traffic, as was, I'd imagine, the Pack Horse Inn, which we're about to see. This used to be two cottages that were amalgamated together to form a pub. It served the village for some time, but it's now closed. There was once a plumber's and a post office next to the pub as well, now all gone. There's all sorts of things on this corner. As well as the Pack Horse, you've also got Beckingham School, former school building there, says 1840 above the central window. You've also got a little green, which I'm going to check out in a moment. There's a garage over there as well, which says closed. I don't know whether it's still in business or not, but I have no idea. That looks like a former shop, Norfolk House. And then this building over here is interesting to me as well. I'm not quite sure what this is. Let's go check them all out. The old school was built in 1840, as the date stone tells us, by the patron of Beckingham, Thomas Marsland, and the rector, George Marsland. By 1842, it had enrolled some 120 students. Not bad for a small village, that. The green next to it is known as the Poor Gardens, 2 acres of land left to the poor of the village in 1691 by a Quaker called Randolph Pattinson. It's a protected space and isn't designed for ball games, so says this sign, rightly so. That house I was interested in is now one property, but it used to be the parish almshouses. These were built in 1905 for the benefit of the village's pensioners, and were still in use for that purpose until 1986. And I was right about this building. This was Webb's garage, and next to it used to be a village shop which sold groceries and homemade ice cream once upon a time. I imagine this too was a popular stop when this was the A17. So apparently I'm causing a little bit of a stir here in Beckingham. A few people have spotted me with the camera wondering what I'm doing. I mean, I can understand it because this is the first one I've done in North Kesteven, and you know, people here don't know me, generally speaking, not unless they've seen some of my other Lincolnshire videos, which they may have done, but it's very unlikely. So just to let everybody know in the village who's watching me, you know, this is nothing sinister, nothing bad. It's not designed to be. It's basically putting the village on the map, showing you the important things, you know, important landmarks, key elements, like for example the places we've been already, like the church and the pack horse and the schoolhouse and the rifle range, and putting it all together in video form and showing you what the village is all about. There's another landmark, by the way. That's the forge. Anyway, we're almost done with this main walk around, and then we can head to Sutton, where the camera will go on the dashboard and I'll drive through the hamlet to finish off the parish of Beckingham, and then of course we'll drive across to the entrance to the rifle range and end the video right there. So yeah, Beckingham folk, stick around, there's plenty more to come in North Kesteven, which I'm sure you'll know. To the south of Beckingham is Sutton, a tiny hamlet which is almost wholly residential. It's also a dead end, but there are footpaths which link to Beckingham. A sign at the start of this lane warns there's no turning facilities for HGVs. Sutton doesn't really have anything massively notable. That said, I always like to cover as much ground as possible, so this little trip was still worth it. I'll use this opportunity to squeeze in 2 more facts about Beckingham. For one, the former Speedway rider Brian Maxted is from Beckingham. He rode for 3 clubs, including the Sheffield Tigers between 1968 and 1972. And one other thing we haven't spoken about so far would be windmills. There were several in this area. There was one close to the Black Swan, another was sited close to the A17, and a third stood in what's known as the Mill Field, about halfway between Beckingham and Sutton. We're heading back to Beckingham now. On the way back, to the right, we pass a playground, something which I stopped to take a look at. It's got much more than just your average play equipment, mind you. And this playground was quite well hidden actually, even though there are signs for it, it's well hidden behind that hedge over there. At the back of this, we've got some trees which have been planted, quite a few of them actually. It's always good to see that. I suppose that's some kind of community project. Always helps the environment when people plant new trees, so yeah, that's good to see. All I've got left to do in this episode is take myself to the entrance of the rifle range to record the outro, which you'll see in a moment. But before I do that, new people out there, here's something else that I do in every episode. Something called the picture bit. It's where I go online and I find some images of the local area, cobble them all together, generally speaking places and landmarks where I haven't been. And yeah, that's called the picture bit, and it's coming your way right now for the very first parish in North Kesteven. That would be Beckingham. So here I am outside Beckingham camp, and I'm not going to get any closer than this because there's a massive sign there that says MOD property, keep out. Even though it's perfectly legal to film from the road here, I think it's just common courtesy not to show you anything more than this. But this is where you go to access Beckingham Camp and the rifle ranges, and that's why there's loads of signs around this place that say gunfire noise, because they're all practicing on the ranges. Brilliant. You don't see that everywhere, do you? Certainly a unique feature for Beckingham. Time for me to move on to my next one here in North Kesteven, which will be at some point, I don't know when, because this one was a special one that I just recorded with a couple of Newark and Sherwood episodes, but it will be a regular series soon. I think, and you've got an exclusive here, I think Newark and Sherwood, when that's finished, I'll probably go into North Kesteven properly and do it as a proper series. You heard it here first. Anyway, this has been the parish of Beckingham, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.